Maps. I love maps. We are at the train station in Denizli. So this is all of Turkey. And I think those lines are train lines. I'm not sure, but all of Turkey. And just to give you an overview, this here was the little peninsula where the Lycian Way was, or Lycian Way was. We took a bus from Antalya, where we finished, and spent the last 2 days in Pamukkale, where we had the hot springs, or the thermal springs, and the Hierapolis ruins. We're back in Denizli, and we're gonna take a train, which is really cool. Super excited to take a train out to the west coast of Turkey to the little town of Selçuk right there, which is very close to the ancient ruins of Ephesus. And it's supposed to be quite famous ruins, where there's a temple there, and it's considered one of the 7 ancient wonders of the world, the Artemis Temple. There's not much left there, but it's still pretty interesting to go. And then the plans from here on in is a few days here, and then we go up to Izmir, where we take a flight all the way over to Cappadocia, which is, where is it? I don't know. There's Ankara. It's somewhere in this area. I can't find it on the map, but we're going to spend 4 days there.
It's basically close to there.
Visiting underground cities and maybe hot air ballooning. And then finally, our final leg will be to take another flight back to Istanbul and spend a week in Istanbul, which is super excited for that. This is like the center of the world for many years. Yeah, so super excited for the last part of our trip. Turkey. All right, we are wandering the streets of Denizli waiting for our train. Got some train tickets. Very excited to ride the train. Love trains. We got a few hours to kill, so we're looking for maybe a place for a coffee or tea. And I want to show you how they make tea here. It's really interesting, kind of different. But tea is a big thing. Coffee obviously is a big thing in Turkey. So here's the thing with tea in Turkey. So it's almost like a double boiler system. Some of it's super fancy, but they have tea that's really strong. It's made up top, but then it's kept warm by this second boiler here, and then you add hot water to your tea to dilute it a little bit. And then you never have tea without sugar here, I guess. It's pretty strong. Kind of like their coffee. Okay, check it out. Just found some freshly made simit. It's kind of like a bagel, but not. It's toasted with sesame seed on it, and they are delicious. We're looking for one of the 7 ancient wonders of the world. And I don't think that it's here. The Temple of Artemis. It's somewhere around here. We're looking for it. Where? Right beside the garbage can? I don't know. It could be it. Yeah, that's not it. That's not it either. What did you just say? Where did you find it? Where do you think it is?
I was just joking, but it does say
It's not far from the Chinese and Korean restaurant?
Not far from the Korean restaurant.
There's not much left standing in its space, but it's one of those things for me. I think you just got to use your imagination. I've been reading so much about it and how it made it onto this list and the history behind it. That
sure, yeah, we need to go this way and then right and then right. But where do you think this is?
not that. That's a telephone pole. Mel was following. She was following this sign. Artemis Selchuk Suites. That's a hotel. Oh, there's some. We're coming up to it. Okay, so this ancient list, or this list of ancient wonders, 7 wonders. The list itself is really interesting because only one of the 6 things on the list actually exist anymore. And you would be wondering, like, whoa, like, what? It just doesn't make sense, this list. But this list was created like a long time ago. It's like an ancient list. There's like ancient scholars and philosophers and Greeks would put together this list, and for about 60 years, all 7 of these structures, these wonders of the world, existed. They were standing. They weren't destroyed by nature or by humans, and there was a period of time so that they actually existed. And this list apparently was created for sightseers, for tourists like us. Ancient Greeks would acknowledge that these amazing things existed, like the pyramids and this Temple of Artemis, Hanging Gardens of Babylon. They all existed at one point, and so it was like a must-see list that people would refer to and go see, kind of like us. Unfortunately, all but one are left standing. So I think where we're going now to see the Temple of Artemis, there's only one pillar that's left there, and I don't even know if it's real, and it's a lot of rubble. So you kind of have to use your imaginations to when you're here. Mel's gonna use. She's loving it.
What? Oh, there it is.
The Temple of Artemis looked like this. And then now, all that's left is this. Just use your imagination. It's one of the 7 wonders of the world. That's all that's left. That's I don't even know if that thing's real, the column. But imagine this giant temple that was built to worship the god Artemis. Goddess Artemis. That's all that's left. Time is a bitch. I'm going in. I don't care what people say. Like, this thing was massive. See that column there? Apparently there were over 100, like 130 columns that was built, and then this had this giant facade over it. The columns at one point, at one iteration, I think there were like 2 or 3 of the temples that were built. Of this temple that was built and rebuilt, it was covered in gold. People from across Asia Minor and Greece would come here and visit because it was just this thing. It was beautiful. Use your imagination. So if you're wondering why it's in a pit, well, it wasn't never always in a pit. It was flooded many times, and the silt built up, and it just buried. Like many ruins, it just became buried over time. And it was this giant mound, and the river flooded, and it was just covered in dirt and silt over the thousands of years. I think the first time it was built, it was like 500 BCE, and then it lasted until I think it was like 400, something like that, CE or AD, whatever the term you want to use. But this was the foundation of it, and that's all that's left. And I think it was taller than that, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's taller than that. Like 127 of these.
Yeah.
And then covered in gold.
It's just one of 127 pillars, I guess. The other interesting story about this is it was built, I guess it was built on a foundation that was never really that stable. So it's one of the reasons why, it's prone to earthquake and stuff. But the first time that it was destroyed, an arsonist, whose name shall not be mentioned, and that was actually law, supposedly went in and burned down the wooden supports in it, and it came crashing down. you'll have to look up his name. I know his name, but I can't say it. It was against ancient Greek law because he did it as an act of infamy. He wanted the world to know it was him who burned down the Temple of Artemis. But there's also a conspiracy theory that it wasn't really him. He was framed for it. They knew that the foundation to the temple was actually quite unstable, so they wanted to move. So if they burnt it down and destroyed parts of it, they could actually relocate it. And it was so he was the fall guy. The other interesting piece of history, or folklore, or myth, or whatever, was there's a bird's nest up there. Is that the goddess Artemis, who's the goddess of the hunting and nature and childbirth and childbearing. When she turned her back to her temple, the reason why on the day that it was first burnt down, is because Alexander the Great was born, and she paid attention to him and turned her back to the temple, and thus it was destroyed.